Have you ever felt like there are people rooting against you, talking behind your back, or even wishing for your failure for no apparent reason? That feeling of injustice, of being attacked or persecuted, can generate anxiety, fear, and even discouragement. Psalm 7, you will understand how these teachings can be directly applied to your life, how God acts against envy and invisible traps. And stay with me until the end, because I will create a powerful prayer based on Psalm 7. Like and subscribe to the channel. You try to remain calm on the outside, but inside there's a mix of emotions that are hard to explain. Confusion, sadness, indignation, and even fear. Because being the target of injustice hurts deeply, especially when you know you did nothing to deserve it. Psalm 7. It's not just a religious text detached from reality. It's the record of someone who felt persecuted, accused, and threatened. Someone who realized that there were forces against him, people against him, words against him. And this connects directly to life today, because the battles change form, but they don't cease to exist. Perhaps you've experienced moments when you notice changes in the behavior of someone close to you. Comments that seemed innocent, but carried judgment. Situations where you were misunderstood. Or even occasions when someone tried to diminish your image in the eyes of others. And the hardest part is when you can't fully defend yourself, because part of what's happening occurs behind the scenes, far from your eyes. Anxiety arises precisely there, in the feeling of loss of control. Human beings like to understand, resolve, correct. But when injustice involves hidden intentions or silent envy, you can't simply resolve it with a conversation. And this generates unease. The mind begins to revisit situations, searching for explanations. The heart begins to feel heavy, as if carrying something invisible. There's also another important point. Injustice directly affects our identity. When someone questions our integrity, our sincerity, or our intentions, it feels like they are attacking who we are. And this can generate impulsive reactions. A desire to confront, to prove that you are right, to respond with the same intensity. But it is precisely at this moment that a spiritual danger arises, acting driven by emotion instead of faith. The psalm shows that the initial feeling isn't the problem. Feeling pain, sadness, or indignation is human. What defines the outcome is what we do afterward. And often when we are hurt, the tendency is to seek immediate solutions, talking to various people, trying to clarify everything quickly, or even shutting down completely to avoid further pain. But there is a deeper path, and it begins with an inner decision. The decision to not allow injustice to destroy your peace. Because when the mind gets stuck in the situation, the anguish grows. You start imagining negative scenarios, anticipating conflicts, feeling anxious about something that hasn't even happened yet. And this can affect your sleep, mood, and motivation. Little by little, the external battle begins to transform into an internal battle. And that's exactly what the enemy of your peace wants, for you to wear yourself down inside before any solution even appears outside. But the spiritual truth is that moments of injustice can also be moments of revelation. They show you who is truly around you. They reveal hidden intentions. They strengthen discernment. And above all, they create opportunities for you to experience God's protection in a more real way. Something powerful happens when you understand that you don't have to carry everything alone. When you realize that God is not just a distant concept, but a present refuge. Your heart begins to slow down. Your breathing becomes lighter. Hope reappears, even if the situation hasn't changed yet. And perhaps the most important point in this moment of anguish is this. God sees what no one else sees. He knows details you don't know. He understands hidden intentions. And He knows exactly what is happening, even when everything seems confusing to you. If you believe that God will transform your life and that your prosperity is coming, write Amen in the comments. There is an essential step that transforms this awareness into real experience, and that is what begins when the soul decides to cry out. Not a superficial cry, made only of repeated words, but a sincere cry, born from the depths of a heart when you recognize that you need help beyond your own strength. The person who was previously distressed now directs their pain toward God. Instead of wasting energy trying to control everything around them, they choose to take refuge in the one who truly has the power to act. This reveals a profound spiritual principle. Seeking God is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of understanding. Because when the soul seeks refuge in God, something begins to reorganize itself within you. The mind, which was racing, finds direction. The heart, which was heavy, finds rest. And the emotion, which was out of control, begins to be replaced by confidence. The external problem may even continue to exist for a while, but the internal chaos begins to diminish. Many people think that prayer is just asking God to solve a situation. But true prayer goes beyond that. It involves surrender. It involves trust. It involves opening your heart without masks, without trying to appear strong, without trying to hide feelings. It's the moment when you say, God, I don't know what to do, but I know that you know. And there is something powerful in that, because when you acknowledge your limitations, you open space for divine action. While we try to control everything, we carry too much weight. But when we surrender, we allow God to intervene in ways we never imagined. A sincere cry doesn't just change circumstances, it changes perspectives. Perhaps you've already tried to resolve situations on your own, and realized that the more you tried, the more tired you became. This happens because some battles are not just human, they are spiritual. They involve emotions, intentions, invisible energies, internal and external conflicts all at once. And that is precisely why taking refuge in God becomes essential. Seeking refuge doesn't mean running away from reality. It means facing reality with a greater strength on your side. When you pray, you are not ignoring the problem. You are positioning yourself spiritually in relation to it. You are declaring that your safety depends not only on circumstances, but on the presence of God. And this change of position creates peace. A peace that does not come from the absence of conflict, but from the certainty that you are not alone in it. Another important detail is that sincere prayer also brings clarity. Often, in the midst of pain, we cannot see solutions or paths forward. But when you connect with God, discernment increases. You begin to notice attitudes that previously went unnoticed. You understand people's behavior better. You recognize what needs to be done, and especially what needs to be avoided. And that's liberating because it takes you out of the victim position and puts you in the position of someone who is protected. There's also a profound emotional transformation that occurs in this process. Anxiety begins to give way to hope. Fear begins to lose ground to confidence. Anger diminishes because you understand that you don't need to retaliate in every way. God can act in ways that you can never act on your own. And perhaps one of the greatest tests of faith is precisely this, trusting before seeing any change happen. Because sincere prayer doesn't depend on immediate results. It depends on the certainty of who God is. And when you understand that, your heart calms down even amidst uncertainty. Your soul finds rest even before the answer arrives. If this message speaks to your heart, leave a like now and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any content. God is a just judge. This means that no accusation, no lie, no envy, and no injustice go unnoticed before Him. Even when it seems that the truth is being distorted or ignored by those around us, God continues to see with absolute clarity. And this completely changes how you deal with difficult situations. Because one of the greatest human anxieties is feeling misunderstood. When someone questions your character, your intentions, or your actions, an intense need to defend yourself arises. We want to explain, justify, prove. We want others to recognize the truth immediately. But that doesn't always happen. There are times when, no matter how much you talk, people have already created their own version of the story. And it is at this point that many people become emotionally exhausted. But divine justice works differently from human justice. God doesn't depend on arguments, versions, or appearances. He knows the inner self. He knows when you try to do the right thing. He knows when your intentions were good. He knows when there was evil done against you. And this certainty brings a kind of peace that doesn't depend on the approval of others. Trusting in God's justice doesn't mean being passive or accepting abuse. It means understanding that the truth doesn't need to be desperately defended because it's already known by those who truly matter. This frees the heart from an enormous burden, the burden of trying to control everyone's opinion. There is also another profound aspect to this. When you understand that God knows hearts, you realize that nothing is outside of His control. That situation that seems confusing, He understands. That person who seems to act with ulterior motives, He knows. That injustice that seems unanswerable is being observed. And often, time is the instrument that God uses to reveal the truth. How many situations in life have begun with accusations or misunderstandings, only for reality to naturally emerge? This happens because truth has its own power. And when God is involved, it always finds a way to manifest itself. Another important point is that trusting in divine justice protects your heart from the poison of bitterness. When you believe you need to solve everything alone, anger grows. Indignation increases. Resentment begins to take hold. But when you surrender the situation to God, something changes internally. You stop taking on the role of judge and return to simply being someone who trusts. This doesn't mean the pain disappears immediately, but means it no longer dominates you. Because often, when we are hurt or wronged, the question arises, will whoever did this to me go unpunished? And it is precisely at this point that the message of Psalm 7, it reveals something profound. Evil tends to return to those who practice it. This teaching is not about human revenge, but about spiritual order. There is an invisible law that governs actions. What a person sows, they will eventually reap. When someone acts with envy, lies, manipulation, or malice, it may seem that they are winning for a time, but in reality, they are creating consequences for themselves. Because when you understand that God is just and that no action goes unanswered, you don't need to waste energy trying to retaliate. The urge to take justice into your own hands diminishes. The anxiety for immediate answers loses its power, and the heart begins to rest in the certainty that there is a God who sees, evaluates, and acts. The psalm describes people setting traps for others, but falling into them themselves. This is extremely relevant today. How often do we see situations where someone tries to harm another person, spread lies, or create obstacles, and in the end, faces unexpected consequences? Not because someone plotted against them, but because their own actions backfired. This principle also protects your heart from something very dangerous, emotional contamination. When someone hurts us, there's a risk of becoming like what hurt us. The person lies, and the temptation to lie arises too. The person attacks, and the desire to attack back arises. But when you understand that God takes care of justice, you preserve yourself. You don't need to stoop to the same level. Perhaps today you are experiencing something that seems unfair, burdensome, or confusing. Perhaps someone is working against you, or a situation has brought you pain. But there is a truth that needs to sink deep into your heart. God not only sees, He acts. And many battles are resolved without you having to fight. Now, for a moment, if possible, close your eyes and begin to pray with faith in your heart. Pray with me. Lord my God, I place myself before you now, trusting in your justice and your protection. You know the truth of my heart, you know my intentions, and you know everything I have been through. If there are people trying to harm me, if there are unjust words or malicious actions against me, I surrender everything into your hands. I do not want to carry burdens, nor live dominated by anxiety. I choose to trust that you are my defender. Father, guard my heart so that I may not be contaminated by anger, resentment, or the desire for revenge. I do not want to respond to evil with evil. I want to remain in your light, in your truth, and in your peace. If someone has set traps for me, may the Lord transform them into deliverance. If there is injustice, may the Lord manifest your justice in due time. I declare that the Lord is my refuge and my shield. I trust that no evil will have the last word over my life. May your presence strengthen me, protect me, and guide me safely. Today I rest in you, I surrender my battles to you, and I choose to live in peace. Amen. Psalm 7, this reminds us that we don't need to live dominated by fear, because justice and protection come from the Lord. May you leave here with more peace, more faith, and the certainty that no battle is greater than God's care for your life. If this message strengthened you, please like it, as this helps the video reach more people. And if you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue receiving messages that build your faith. God bless you.